Sensei will now lead us with Sutra Juni Rai.
尊那千非尊功独自修善無変如海水小逆前言少女者平成主上
Hey, you know, right now I'm in a certain.
南にしく独平等性一切道も大心往生Please join me in 合唱。南無阿弥陀仏。南無阿弥陀仏。南無阿弥陀仏。南無阿弥陀仏。南無阿弥陀仏。南無阿弥陀仏。南無阿弥陀仏。
Please join me in reading our pledge in English, followed by Sensei reading the pledge in Japanese. Our pledge: breaking out of my shell, I will share a warm smile and speak gentle words, just like the kind Buddha. Not becoming lost in my greed, anger, and ignorance, I shall think and act with an open mind, just like the calm and peaceful Buddha. Not putting myself first, I will share in the joy and sadness of others, just like the compassionate Buddha. Realizing the gift of life I have received, I shall strive to live each day to its fullest, like the Buddha who tirelessly works to liberate all. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.
では日本語でお願いいたします。私たちの誓い、一つ自分の殻に閉じこもることなく、穏やかな顔と優しい言葉を大切にします。微笑み語りかける仏様のように。一つむさぼり、怒り、愚かさに流されず、しなやかな心と振る舞いを心がけます。心安らかな仏様のように。一つ自分だけを大事にすることなく、人と喜びや悲しみを分かち合います。慈悲に満ち満ちた仏様のように。一つ生かされていることに気づき、日々に精一杯努めます。人々の救いに尽くす仏様のように。ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏。
We will now have a Dharma message from Reverend Dr. Miyaji. Thank you, Sensei. Would everyone, just a reminder, would everyone please mute yourselves? Thank you.
一緒に合唱。ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏。Good morning, everyone. Today, in my Dharma message, I'd like to use some of these mechanisms in Zoom, or attempt to try some of these mechanisms in Zoom. So please bear with me if things don't go as smoothly as I planned them to be. Just to begin with today, I'd like to say that I went, I was in Japan for about 8 years, 9 if you include 1 year I spent in Tokyo. So I was in Japan for quite some time. And when you're in Japan, you start to see some of the kind of differences between, the two countries, America and Japan. Actually, if it were up to me and I was like the ruler of the world or something, I would actually try to make it mandatory for all high schoolers to go abroad overseas for at least a year, just to get themselves out of their own bubbles and to be able to see another culture and how it functions, because it's very different. Japan and America are similar in many ways, but they're very, very drastically different in many other ways as well. So for example, just to give you a few examples, this is a very kind of minor detail, but in Japan, where you stand on the escalator is a very important thing. And it depends on region. So if you're in the Kanto region, I believe you stand on the left and then you pass on the right of the escalator, right? But in Kyoto or Osaka, Kansai area, like specifically Osaka, you stand on the right and then you pass on the left. So these kinds of differences are there. In Japan, for example, packaging, when you buy like omiyage or like a birthday present or something, packaging is very, very important. And I think some of us have seen on YouTube, how Japanese people package their gift wrap, their omiyage. It's very intricate and very nice and detailed. If it's a rainy day, they'll give you a plastic covering to put on the bag, and so it's very packaging is very important over there. Let's see. In Japan, the position of a person is very important. Like their ranking, I guess, in society. So if it's like a bucho, kacho, you have to address them by their kind of title, right? If it's like a school teacher, gakko no sensei, you say sensei something or other. Or even in the nuclear family, right? Otosan, okasan. It's normal to say father, mother. We don't really say that here in America. It's kind of weird to say that, but in Japan, otosan, okasan, kun. Nani nani kun, nani nani chan, right? So we try to stay from what's called yobiste, which is like, if it was like Takashi, my name is Takashi, I say like Takashi, right? And nothing after that. It's kind of rude, right? It's to explain things or to address that person in that way. On the flip side, in America, for example, there's much more emphasis, I would say, on the nuclear family. So like get-togethers are very important, like on special holidays. I think America emphasizes that a lot more. In America, there's a lot more wiggle room in terms of like relationships with others. You can actually be, kind of buddy with your boss or superior, right? Whereas in Japan, that's kind of, it's a little bit awkward, right? So anyway, there's, all these examples that I can give. I could go on and on and on about this. It's very interesting to explain about these things. But one thing I wanted to kind of talk about was this one experience that I had when I was in Japan, and it's the ofuro example. So one time when I was in Japan, someone recommended me to go to a sento. A sento is a bathhouse, right? So I was like, oh, okay. And I've been to one of these nice, fancy like onsen places. And so, you could borrow, shampoo and soap and all that stuff. So it's very nice, right? But I went to a sento. Sento is like a step down from an onsen. It's a local bathhouse. So only the locals go there, right? So I thought, it's like about a couple blocks down from where I live. So I went to go, check it out. And so I paid 400 yen, which is about like $4 to go in. And it's very cheap. And so, I was thinking I could, borrow some of the shampoo and the soap in there when I go in there. So I go inside the ofuroba and I look and I try to see if there's any like shampoo or soap. And there's no shampoo or soap. It's nowhere to be found. So I thought, that's kind of weird. So I kind of walk around and I look, and then it just so happened to be that there was a kago, which is a little box, right? And then there's soap, and then there's shampoo. And I was like, oh, there it is. And so, and then there was no one sitting there. So I went ahead and sat down and I started, doing the shampoo, washing my body, right? And then using the soap. And then, so I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. And I looked inside the box and I saw that there was more than just soap and shampoo, right? So I saw there was a toothbrush in there. And so I was like, oh, toothbrush, this is amazing service. Like I paid $4 to get in here and this is great. So I used the toothbrush and I'm like, brushing my teeth. And I was like, well, this is great. This is fantastic. And then the whole time I could feel eyes on me, but then I didn't really pay mind to it. So then, I used a toothbrush and then I went into the ofuro and then it was nice. And then I left, right? And then I later asked, my friend, hey, that place is really nice. The service there was really good. I didn't have to bring anything. And the person said, you didn't have to bring anything. And I said, yeah. And I said, all the stuff is there, right? And he said, no, you have to bring your own stuff. Only the locals go there. They all, bring their own soap and shampoo from their homes. And so I wonder whose, soap and shampoo you used. And so I got very afraid and I went to the local liquor store or the local the convenience store, and I bought like a bottle of Listerine and I was chugging the Listerine because I realized that I used someone's toothbrush. But anyway, so that's a long story that happened to me when I went to Japan for the first time, and I see all these differences between America and Japan. And the point I'm trying to get at is that we don't really realize, the bubble that we're in. We don't really realize the kind of there are, I guess, in a sense, like our own ignorance of the situation that we are in. And so we all kind of have these ignorance incidents. In Japanese, there's a phrase called kuki o yomu, or kuki ga yomenai. It means in English, reading the situation. So how many times do we not read the situation and get caught up in some kind of misunderstanding? I think, I believe I do it all the time, right? Buddhism, I think, Buddhism speaks to this situation. Buddhism calls this bubble of ours, these attachments that we have, the three poisons: greed, anger, and ignorance, three poisons. So we as these ignorant beings cannot read the situation. And in this case, it's the real situation, the spiritual situation, the existential situation, if you will. And that is to say that we cannot see our own blind passions and that they're obstructing us from seeing the reality of the situation. We are caught up so much in our attachments that it's hard to see the reality as such. We cannot read the situation. 空気が読めない自分である. So what shows us then that we are not reading the situation? In other words, the person that tells us, or the reality that tells us, the teaching that tells us that we are not reading the situation correctly is the Buddha Dharma. And the Buddha says to us, hey, you are not looking at the situation that as it really is. Amida Buddha is telling us through Amida Buddha's great compassion that we are not seeing the situation as it really is. Buddhism teaches us about a path to a world that shows us what the reality of the situation is. A lot of times people ask me, what is Amida Buddha and the Pure Land? Well, the Pure Land, if you could imagine, is like a mirror, okay? The mirror shows us our true naked selves just as we are. The parts that we want to see, the parts that we don't want to see, everything incorporated, it just as it is. It shows us our true selves. And this is the purpose of Amida Buddha. So like when we look at ourselves, right, we can only see parts of ourselves, like the hand or our leg or something like that, right? We only see parts of ourselves. We cannot see ourselves as such. What shows us our true selves as such is a third person or a third, another party or something separate from ourselves. And that is the teaching of the Buddha Dharma. So I'd like to give you an example of what the purpose of Amida Buddha's teaching is. I'd like to share with you. Oh, here you go. Okay, so can you see the screen? Can you put your thumbs up if you see this? Okay. All right. So, ですね。Okay. So if you can imagine, this is ourselves here. And then this is the bubble that we live in, the bubble of our attachments, the bubble of blind passions. And for some of us, maybe the bubble is bigger than others, a lot wider than others. Perhaps our political leadership now. No, I'm just kidding. I won't go there. But so for many of us, the bubble of ego attachments is very thick, right? And no matter how hard we try to break out of it with our own strength, it's very hard to do so, right? However, it's not this one. There is the light. This is supposed to be a sun. Okay. And the light is shining, okay, on everything, right? And so we personify this light as Amida Buddha. So the Buddha's wisdom goes everywhere, okay? And we are embraced within this wisdom, okay? And when it breaks through, okay, we call this then, oh, sorry, I don't know if you can see that, but that is Shinjin, okay? And then here I will write Nembutsu, okay? So the Nembutsu then breaks through our ego bubbles and shows us that there is a world of greater reality that is beyond just ourselves, okay? And so that is the Nembutsu that shines within us. And when we awaken to that reality, we see our true selves as we are. And not only that, we see that despite the fact that we are within this ego bubble of ours, that we are still embraced in Amida Buddha's wisdom and compassion that embraces all beings together at once. So then you might be wondering, is Amida Buddha then some kind of God, some kind of deity, right? Actually, that is not the case, okay? The Buddha is this light, okay? But we personify it in the form of a being, in the form of Buddha, in order for us to understand what this reality is that we are embraced within, okay? So that is the purpose of the Nembutsu. It breaks through our egocentric selves and it shows us our true selves as we are, okay? So in conclusion, Amida Buddha and the Buddha's great compassion, or the Nembutsu, is what is given to us to break us out of the bubble of our egos. And we may not be able to extinguish our blind passions altogether once and for all. But once we see past our blind passions, in other words, once we see that there is a world beyond our ego selves that accepts us for who we are, then we know now that there is a greater reality beyond just our egocentric selves. This greater reality is one of light, is one of warmth, is one of wisdom. And this teaching gives us strength. It gives us hope, and it gives us joy in this world, in this life as we live it right now. And because we know that we are not alone, that is where we get our source of strength, hope, and joy. This is what the Nembutsu teaching provides us with. With this teaching, we can live to the utmost of our lives with no worries or anxieties. And with that, I would like to close. Please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. 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 Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sensei.